Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be building up the PVS-14. There's a couple things to consider when you're buying this. This is an AGM kit. I have put it together and played with it a little bit before filming this, and honestly, it is very good quality for a used tube. If you're spending $4 grand, $3 grand to get yourself a brand new top-of-the-line high FOM white phosphor tube, you may want to go for a Carson kit, but honestly, this thing has been fantastic. I can't really tell the difference. But again, I don't know the difference, so. What to consider? There are two types of tubes. Other than your kit, you're going to need a tube. This is a tube. This is what does all the magic. There's two types. There is the MX10160, MX 10160, and the MX11769. I believe that's what it is. The MX10160, MX10160 is what I have here. This is what's used in, say, like an Anvis 9 kit. The only difference between the two is this one does not have manual gain adjustment, where the MX11769 has manual gain adjustment. That's literally the only difference. When you're talking specs-wise, you can compare these two types of tube, spec to spec. This one is a Gen 3 green phosphor out of an old Anvis 9. I've already put it in there, and there are, I don't think there's hardly any blims. It's really cool. So, you'll need one of these. The other things you'll need, battery. The kit comes with this cheap Toshiba alkaline. This is not permanent. Energizer, the 1191s, which are the Energizer Lithium, Ultimate Lithium, or something like that, are what are recommended, from what I've heard. If you plan on using alkalines, I mean, it can run any in an emergency. Yeah, you can run anything you want. Alkalines have more of a tendency, they have less power in them, they have less power reserve, and they have more of a tendency to leak than the lithiums do. Personally, I'm just going to go buy a pack of lithiums and use those and save a bunch extra. But in an emergency, this would work fine. You can pick up AA's anywhere and pop it in there and you have night vision. Beyond that, a couple tools you'll need to get into the body, and you'll need a way of closing the lock ring on the back here. Beyond that, and there's a really interesting way with a credit card that I will show you guys on camera. Can of air. The can of air is super, super handy for getting your case prepared. You want to get all the dust off of the tube before it goes in there. Make sure it's nice and clean, and you want all the ocular surfaces clean. Oh, last thing, dielectric grease. Not mandatory, but I think it'll help. The rings, these are O-ring sealed front and back, and the O-rings actually slide in and out of the body. That's how you make the adjustments. You twist, but it's actually moving that O-ring in and out. It's very stiff if there's no grease on it, so dielectric grease, for anybody who's not aware, non-conductive grease will help lube that up, and you can use it on like the O-ring up here for the AA battery cap. But beyond that, the only other thing you might want is some cat crap. I've heard this stuff is awesome. I got this on Amazon. You think with how much TNVC uses and sells this stuff, they would have a good price on it? They don't, so I bought it on Amazon. I'll put a link, actually, if you want to get it from Amazon as well. I'll put a link to where I got it, because I get a couple pennies when you buy it. Let's get started. To take your parts kit apart, you're going to undo the 4 screws, and let me turn on autofocus so it'll follow me around. Hold on one sec. Here we go. Autofocus is on so it can follow me as I go. So you're going to want to do all 4 of these. Undo the 4 front screws. This unscrews the battery housing. There's only 4 of them, and it's not very hard to figure out where they're at. Your battery housing will come off. Be careful when you do this. These two may be connected up in here. If they are, make sure I'm in focus. Yeah. If this is connected, don't go ripping. You're going to have to remove these from those 2 prongs up there before you go taking this apart. Beyond that, the only other thing you really need to do is unscrew your rear eye piece, your rear optical here. Set that aside. And yes, this bench has been blown off. There's not a whole lot of dust in here. That's why I'm doing it outside. You're going to remove your LED light tube, light pipe, and there should be a lock ring in here. Remove your lock ring. When you go to put this together, take your air can, good dry air, make sure that lens is clean. We're going to do the same down here. Make sure both. Oop. Got a little bit of juice on there. I'm going to have to clean that off now. Hold on one sec. So next thing we need to do, once that's aired off, it's ready to go. We're going to connect up our two little spots here. So you can see, let me make sure it's in focus. There you go. You can see that they just go down on those little pins down in there. And they sit down in there pretty easily. Like that. That's pretty much it. Do that first before you put your tube in. We're going to take our tube. Make sure it's dust free. Because every little speck of dust you see on this thing will be magnified when looking through the optics, so make sure it's clean. When you have inspected it and you're happy, this will go in. The dark side goes down towards the front, and you'll notice, hopefully this is in focus, there's a little indent right there. When you slip this into the tube, into the housing, it'll seat right there into that little plug. Yeah, you guys can see that. And that's pretty much ready to go body-wise. We're going to put our housing on. This will help eliminate any opportunity for dust and particulates to get in on the side of the tube. Now, before we finish up here, make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you can see down in there. Next thing, light pipe goes in. You'll see it says up on part of it. You probably can't see that very well, but it goes up. There's also a little notch here that will fit down into a little notch down in there like that. Hold on. Just like that. It'll fit down in like that. You're gonna take your lock ring and the credit card. Let me go get the card. It's not an actual credit card. Let me go grab the card that we're gonna use. Change of plans. Don't have a credit card or a room key that I can use for this. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it. I did this way before. Using a spudger out of one of the take apart kits. I think it's an iFixit kit. Run it backwards so you can get it to seat correctly. Credit card's just a little bit easier, but this will work just fine. You want it to seat evenly, and you'll know when it does. Just like that, you'll just make sure you don't cross thread. That's the main thing. If you use a credit card technique, it just fits in and you use it to twist. The parts, the tools, aren't available to the public to build these. It's a real major pain in the ass. Supposedly somebody's going to be bringing some out, but as far as I can tell, you can't get the tools to make this. If anybody out there that watches this knows of a place for me to buy these tools to put these together, let me know, because I want a tool set. I'd like to have one. And you're going to want to snug this lock ring in. This is what keeps everything from jostling around. So off camera, I will go and make sure that this is snug down against the tube. The ocular piece will go in next, and we're going to make sure that this is brought all the way forward. I'm going to use a little bit of dielectric grease on that O-ring there, just to smooth out the action of it a little bit. Just enough. And we're also going to use some on the battery housing to make sure that that O-ring is nice. So we'll take a little dielectric grease and go around the outside of that piece. Be right back. All right, O-ring has been greased up. Take a little bit of air. Make sure there's no dust in there. Make sure there's no dust on there. We're gonna take our back cap, sit it on, and screw it down. Now, when you're done with this completely, when your entire job is done here, you're gonna wanna make sure that all of these rings and whatnot are tight. I'm going to do that off camera. It's a little hard to do that standing next to the camera. So like that, snug it all in, clean it up. Just like that, we're pretty much done. Notice that there's a hole here. This is your purge valve. This is where you would nitrogen purge. My kit did not come with a screw, so I had to get one. It wasn't a big deal. I called up I called up AGM. I actually called up Kosher Supply. They got me in touch with AGM, and AGM is shipping one out. I should have it in the next day or two. So not a big deal. We will talk about purging. When you want to purge the system, all you're doing, you see nitrogen purge thrown around when you're talking night vision. Really, all you're doing is putting a inert, dry gas into the housing, because this whole housing is water and airtight. So by putting an inert, dry gas in there, you avoid fogging up the internal lenses when you go from cold to hot, hot to cold, that sort of thing. Doesn't have to be nitrogen. You can use a can of dust off. This is a dry air source. It's just as stinky, and it has that bitterative added to it. For me, I'm probably going to nitrogen purge this, and we'll do another video on this. With argon, I have a tank of argon behind me from the welder. Argon should be a perfectly suitable dry gas that we can use here, and I have a whole big old tank of it to use, so we'll probably do that. Beyond that, you're pretty much ready to go. If we want to test it, make sure our ocular, see, it works much better now. This one needs a little grease too, because this one's a little stiff up front. I'll get some grease added there. Make sure everything is nice and snugged up. So something to note, when you go to test this, test it with this cap on. There's a little pinhole in the front that allows enough light to go through for you to see in the daylight without hurting anything. I'm going to set this, come on. There we go. I'm going to put a little more dielectric grease. I'm going to use a spudger since I have it. A little more dielectric on this, just to make sure that it is wetted. O-rings like to have a little grease on them, so never hurts to put a little on there. Be right back. Okay. We wetted our O-ring with a little grease. Battery will go in this direction, positive that way. I think that's positive. We'll take our battery cap and install it. Got mosquitoes in the garage trying to get me. There we go. And if all things work correctly, I should be able to bring this up. I'm going to turn on manual focus so I can focus it out at infinity. We should see green. There you go. There it is. There is your PVS-14 image. So we're going to do some more videos showing what it looks like through one of these, because it's fairly hard to do that sitting in the daylight. But that's pretty much it for your entire build. It's very, very straightforward, very easy process. The only thing you have to have is money. It's expensive. But that's pretty much it. Get ready, we have a whole bunch of night vision coming. This is super exciting for me, so we're going to have a whole bunch of new stuff coming down the pike, night vision related. So I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See ya. Okay, so I'm going to roll in a picture of what we can see with the human eye, naked eye. Here, let me focus it, give me a second. It's probably closer to that. That's about what you can see through the monocular.
You see that airplane up there?
Yeah, you can see the airplane flashing over there. The stars, without the monocular, it's just pure blackness. I think that was a bat that just flew by. So you can see all the way out across the mountain with the night vision versus the black. Pretty amazing.